Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Georgia Asian Time's SungKhom Lao podcast. I'm your host today, Elizabeth B. Beacherton. So, hope everyone had a great summer today, and I just want to remind you all that we are having our 25 most influential Asian American Gala on July 12th. So, get your tickets from gaasiantime.com, and tickets are available. So, get your ticket now. Don't forget it. Okay. So this hot summer, how are you guys doing with this hot summer?
Surviving.
Surviving.
Trying to get through it.
Well, it's not as hot where I've been, as like I said before, as we talked before the camera started rolling.
Yeah.
I went to Houston, I went to Vegas, I went to California, to LA, and then to Chino, California for Sabati Fest. So I was there, and it was so great to see all the different cultures. It's different from the South. Very different.
I'm sure. The
culture, the fashion, the lifestyle is all different. The weather is different. And being at Sabati Fest, seeing all these Southeast Asian cultures come together for unity on food, the culture, dance, like everything. So that's why we're here today to speak about Myriad events and your Southeast Asian culture promoting on the safe space for all generations. So welcome, you guys. We have James Vang and Micheal Khamphoumy, right?
Yeah, Micheal Khamphoumy.
Nice to meet you guys. So James, can you go ahead and describe to the audience what are all the different safe spaces that are there for all the generations?
Yeah, so I think, with the different generations, we each kind of prioritize a little bit more on a different aspect. So generally for the older generation, I think it's more of a physical safe space. Mm-hmm. And then for our generation, the people that's kind of born between 1990s to the 2000s were more mentally. Mm-hmm. And then the newer generation, we tend to focus a little bit more on the emotional side. So what we try to provide is a safe space for the older generations to feel comfortable, to let them know that the culture that they represent is appreciated. And then at the same time, mentally, we want to give our generation an opportunity to showcase their skill sets, some of the things that maybe the older generation don't appreciate as much.
Right.
And then going into the newer generation as well, with technology the way that it is and with the way that the kids are growing up today, right. We also want to be supportive of the way that they feel and not neglect the way that they feel.
Right. So this is kind of more like 3 different types of generations, trying to connect it all, trying to bridging the gap between everyone. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know that your wife can't be here with us today, and I know she kind of started this whole thing. Yes. Can you please tell me more about yourself and how you and your wife came to create this platform?
Yes, so I'm Hmong. Mm-hmm. It's Hmong. So for our people, we've only been in America for roughly 49 years or so. Mm-hmm. And, being a pioneer for powerlifting or the lifting sports, I find that it's very important for people like me to voice what I think is important and to also represent that there's a different path, that not everybody has to follow the same pathway to reach that level. And I hope that when people see some of the things that I have done for the last 10 plus years, that they can see that there's value in the arts, even if our parents don't appreciate it the way that we appreciate it. And then going on with that, my wife is very much the same. A lot of the times within our own culture, there's a lot of negative stigmas when it comes to the Hmong women.
Right.
What Hmong men should become as they grow up, and things like that. And what we both feel very strongly is that we need to educate not only our community, but maybe even other communities who see the success that we bring to the table, to say, hey, look at how much we have accomplished within the small time frame that we are here. Look at the kind of people that we have and the people that we can bring to the forefront to showcase like our skills and our arts and things like that. That way, when the Hmong women or the Hmong men, as they grow up, they don't feel like they're closed in on this little gap that I think the older generation kind of put us in.
Right. So it's kind of like we were all hidden at some point, whereas because the sports, like you said, wasn't one of the main top career choices back in the day, and it's something that, giving a chance for people to feel safe, that, we can promote and speak for ourselves. And it's like, hey, this is what I can do and I enjoy doing. Yes, I can also manage my time by doing this, but I also want to do this. Right. Yeah. So you feel strongly agree about that within the Laotian community as well, and how it, signifies both in relationship to the Hmong community?
Talking about safe space?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Yeah, I totally agree. That's where we really have that that connection, is that generation gap.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then for me as performance coordinator for these events, I really want to showcase like cultural dances, traditional dances, to really appreciate what our parents and our forefathers did, but then also bring into like the newer generation, staying strong to your roots. But then how do we appreciate the arts,
right,
our generation? And so it kind of becomes like a mix.
Right.
And it becomes like a safe space for our generation and the young ones to see that platform was elevated. And like, oh, we're being validated, we're being showcased, and there's something I can do about it. Or I can continue training or continue learning how to dance, traditional Lao dance. Or for me, like a b-boy, still do some modern too.
Right. So tell us, Michael, what do you do? What's your background? What do you do?
Oh, so I'm the main performance coordinator for Myriad events, and then my background is I've been training as a student at Rockwell Dance Academy, learning under like Honey Rockwell. She's one of the original B-girls from New York, and then she really mentored me in teaching kids how to b-boy.
Right.
And then like I'm certified, so like I had to go through like background checks.
You have to be a certified like dancer to teach, or when you say certified, what is that?
Certified to work with kids.
Oh, to work with kids. Got it. Okay.
So like I go through like sexual abuse prevention training.
Right.
Just so, because then like working in the arts, you always want to know like who's teaching your kids.
Right.
Am I dropping off my kids to someone that I can trust?
Right. Most definitely. So do you guys ever feel like, because we're learning, because we're all millennials, we're in this middle space, right? Do you ever feel like, okay, maybe like, are you born here in America as well? Or,
yes.
Okay, so we're all born here. We're all here trying to learn our cultures and everything. It's like, isn't it hard for us to like, who's teaching us? But we have to teach ourselves in order to teach these kids. Like, do you ever feel that way too?
Yeah, I definitely feel like my identity is something that I'm still, even today, navigating on, trying to figure out, am I American or am I Hmong? Because sometimes I feel like when I hang out with the cultural side or more of my family and things like that, they remind me of how American I am.
Right.
But then when I hang out with my American friends, they remind me how Asian I am.
Right.
So then I always feel like I'm in this little bubble and I can't, how would you say it, like expand beyond that. So then what that kind of puts me in a position is where, how do I bridge that together?
Right.
Not only am I bridging, the older generation, the new generation, but I'm also even bridging the identity that I feel of who I am. And it's almost like, because I'm in that little bubble, I have to learn more about myself. Correct. And then I have to learn more about the other people that are also doing the same thing that I'm doing, and then reach out and kind of meet in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that too. So having to have this safe space, kind of makes me feel like, it's this place where I can speak for myself. I can go somewhere where I'm not criticized. I'm not being judged. Because as Asian American being born here, I also feel like we always put into that category, not even by, our American friends, but our parents too. Right. Because why? Because when you're at home, you have to be a specific way, put your head down, don't do this and that. And you're going out there, you want to do certain things, but you can't, because you can't speak up, you can't defend yourself. So when I'm saying that, having this safe space, how does this other, relationship, how does it relate to you all as a Southeast American in your community, or how does it all relate to you? And why why else do you think it's important to have?
Yeah, so for myself, I'm heavily involved in health and fitness. So, kind of seeing where the older generation is at and where the newer generation is at, I try to find and educate both sides on what we can do to be the healthiest version of ourselves.
Right.
Because sometimes I feel like part of the reason why we have such a gap and we don't feel so safe when we are with our parents and or we don't feel like we can actually lead the new generation sometimes is because we don't understand who we are to a very deep level. And I feel like when we can understand our parents' struggle, when we can understand why culturally we do these things, and then also bridge it to the new generation, we can truly have like this little melting pot of growth.
Right.
Because the newer generation, nowadays is very Americanized. Some of them can't even speak the language as much as, that our parents would want.
Yeah.
So then how do we then make them value who our parents are and who we are? Because America definitely loves to remind us who we are during certain times.
Most definitely, yeah. It's funny because I had a student, they were like, oh, I wish I had the chance to learn our language. I wish I had a chance to learn Laos, but it's kind of like it's not even their fault.
Right.
Even if the parents give it at home. I mean, I am guilty as charged because my child doesn't speak Laos, but she's around us enough. She's learning, be able to learn some of the culture. It's somewhere. It's like we got to do like a little bit better within ourselves in order to kind of pass that along. Because I do feel like maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, like it might slowly die. And, so like what's going to happen? So I know we mentioned that there's safe spaces for all generations, and I know our millennials is much stronger than any other generation, correct? We're much stronger, we're strong-minded because we had to take the long road. We had to take the obstacles to get where we are today in order to create this safe space for the community, correct? So do you feel that having this safe space, we're raising a weak and sensitive generation for the young ones?
I think every generation there's weakness and strengths. Because I talk to older guys when they say their dad was always strong. He never cried, never had emotions. But then it was terrible for his mental health. And then like his father ended up suiciding.
Oh no.
But then I feel like for us to break that chain, to really be able to express yourself is very valuable for your mental health. Because you don't want to feel like you're blocked in, you're stuck, or you have nowhere to go, where the only escape you have is death. And so creating these safe spaces, I feel like it's really going to save like our generation.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the younger generation may be more sensitive and more fragile because we're like, I don't want to say like we're holding their hands too much, or do you feel like they will be able to get their independence?
Yes, I think being sensitive is good, but then learning how to have a tough exterior as well, and I think that's just with the experience,
right?
With just living life.
So you definitely work with children a lot, and so when you first worked with them to now, have you seen a change? Has there been any differences?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because like for me, with teaching kids hip hop, we train hard, like the moves, breaking moves, all that stuff.
Like how can you imagine like how they came in first and then how they are now? Can you explain like how they are as a person when they first came in, maybe shy, and then later on, how are they after that?
Yeah, a lot of kids that come into my class, they're shy, they're timid, they're scared to perform, dance, freestyle. But then when I give them the foundation of the moves, and then I really try to make the class fun. Like I teach them how to spray paint, we do music videos.
Okay.
Like we do things in the classroom setting where they feel comfortable and open to express themselves. And then that eventually opens them up to where like, oh, now we're going to do a recital. Oh, now we're going to perform at a festival. Okay. And then become more confident in themselves.
So you have given them that opportunity where they can build up more confidence in themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right, most definitely.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So me specifically, I also agree with Mike when he says, like, every generation, they have strengths and weaknesses. If we want to look back even to our parents will probably think we're weak. And then their parents will probably think they're weak.
Most definitely.
But to go back on the mental and the emotional aspect, I find it that a lot of these kids nowadays, especially like if you look at the life expectancies and things like that, a lot of our younger kids, like between the ages of 16 to 25, they do end up destroying their own lives. And that's been more apparent in 2022 going on to 2024. And I also just kind of think about it, they're strong enough to do something that I'm not strong enough to do. So I think that there is a strength that they have, they just can't express it. And sometimes I feel like we put so much pressure on them that we forget that this was the generation that we worked so hard to build in the first place.
Right.
Something that we always wanted was a generation where they didn't have to suffer the same way that we suffer when we were living with our parents. And then at the same time, our parents suffered a certain amount of generational trauma that perhaps they didn't want us to have, which is why they worked so hard to build the environment for us to be in a situation where we can go to college and we can be these rich and financial people. But now I find that the newer generation is exactly what we want. They have everything that they need.
Because we kind of molded them to that.
But because we forget that this is the golden generation that we want, and we abuse them before they grow into the plant or the flower or the tree that they're supposed to be, we lose the greatness of this generation. So I definitely just think if we continue to build them through arts, if we continue to train them physically, mentally, and build that discipline where when the tough time comes, they don't give up and they keep pushing forward, that is where we're going to see the fruits of our labor. But until then, this is where the millennials and our generation have to do our due diligence in keeping them where they need to be.
Exactly. I totally agree with you, because even if having our parents having to kind of mold us, this is what they envision, and we're kind of like passing on, but through our vision. And it's kind of like we're going to have to set that example where it doesn't need to be, where it doesn't backfire on us as well.
Right.
So most definitely. Yes. So I know you guys just had an event a couple of weeks ago. You guys did a folklore theater, and that was at the Wat La Buddha Kanti. Tell me how that got together. I know it's one of your newer events. You had different performance arts, and I think you were talking about Chinese folklore. Tell me about that event, and do you guys plan on having another one?
This is actually Bee's idea.
Okay.
Folklore theater. Because she wanted some like performance art, but doing traditional storytelling. And then, so I was just helping her like put the vision together. Okay,
most definitely.
And then trying to bridge the gap with the Asian community with the American public, just so we could like create that conversation space. Like, oh, this is what we're about. And so I feel like a lot of animosity between communities because they see like the older feel different. And then, but then through music, food, and dance, I feel like it creates a common ground.
Okay.
Yep. So, kind of to piggyback off of that, I feel like in order for people to truly appreciate the individual side and the cultural side of every ethnicity, we have to educate them. And something that I often feel that people lack sometimes when, like let's say hypothetically during the COVID time, if you're Asian, all of a sudden people put you in that one little group.
Right.
During World War II, if you're Asian, they all put you in that same group, right? No matter if you're Hmong or Chinese or whatever, now you're a part of the Japanese concentration camps too. And I find it that in order for that to stop, we have to educate on what it is that we like to eat, the different kinds of food, the kind of different music. And if you see that there are Hmong people that want to promote your culture, and if you are actually in the culture, what does that make you feel?
Right.
And I hope like what we can do is inspire them to say, why is it that a Hmong person is bringing our culture to the forefront? Why can't we do something like that? Because I hate it when Americans are teaching my kids how to speak our language.
Right.
So then I also think back, like, why can't I use that? Because if I feel like, let's say, a little upset, then perhaps I could do something about that with my kids. And then I also think about all of the different ethnicities that we have here in Georgia, and if we can support every different culture and bring everybody together where we can share the ethnicity and the beautiful things about each other, that is where we can destroy racism and everybody can see that we're all just family.
Right, and I totally agree with you. And having this safe space to create for everyone to come in, to share their culture and then their traditions. Because when you have your older generations, they want us to teach the younger generation about, you know, where we came from, our background, when they're the ones that should be showing us. But however, us millennials are the ones having to educate ourselves and to do it. But either way, all generations are all connected to this safe space. So I just want to say thank you so much for providing those information to us. I know you guys have your upcoming event in August for Southeast Asia. Can you tell me more about that and the dates for those?
I think the Southeast Asian Festival is going to be on the last weekend of August.
Okay.
So on the, I think the
24th and
25th.
Yep.
And again, it's just going to be another re-edition of trying to bring all the different ethnicities and even people too. You know, obviously we want to highlight the Southeast Asians, but it's not secluded to the Asians, because at the end of the day, you know, part of it is, again, to educate the community, and the community is more than just Asian people. So what we really want to do is, again, to highlight, you know, to really represent every culture respectfully, have the right representatives show up and teach us a little bit about what they want to represent at the Southeast Asian Festival. And then from there, you know, kind of like going back to Michael, you know, we push the arts. For me, I'm running a health and fitness. You know, within the Southeast Asian health community, we have a lot of problems with obesity, diabetes, you know, alcoholism, you know, people who smoke a lot of cigarettes. So then what I want to try to bring is an educational piece on health and fitness in a fun way. That way, when people think about health and fitness, they don't think, oh, I have to stop eating this. It's not.
People think, oh, I gotta go on a diet, I gotta eat this.
I gotta go to the gym, something like that.
But sometimes it doesn't work. There's other ways you can do it. Yeah.
So that's part of the vision that I see. And then I think Mike is bringing the dancing, right, Mike?
Yep. So I'm hosting a B-Boy Jam on Saturday.
Okay.
Because hip hop's about community, about peace, love, unity, and that's really what we're trying to do at Southeast Asian Festival.
Yeah. You're trying to make it fun for the generation now and the younger ones. It's something different. It is something different because we have been to other Asian festivals and events, and you know what I did notice last year was that you guys had a death lift competition. I was like, well, I've never seen this at a festival before, and it is something different. And then, you know, in your b-boy competition, and I think it's new and it's fresh, and it's something that people would love to enjoy about it. You know, with safe space, are there any other type of resource? I know you guys are creating something to have a safe space for our generations. Are there any other type of resource if people are looking for help, or someone, you know, like they're lost? Like, is there other resources that people can reach out to?
I would say don't be afraid to reach out to professional help, like psychologists, therapists, because I've seen therapists, psychologists.
Oh, because you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I didn't want to burden my friends, my family with my negative thoughts.
Right.
And so going to see a paid professional, they're equipped to handle that.
Right.
So yeah.
And if you don't mind me asking, how long were you in therapy for?
Probably about a year.
A year, and it has helped you, and then.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because it definitely taught me how to quickly think, make my mind stronger. But when I do get flooded with negative thoughts, how do I stay away from that?
Right. Okay. All right. Well, this is all the time we have for today. I thank you guys so much, James and Michael, for being here with us today. So be sure to check out Southeast Asian Festival Myriad events in August. So, Khop Chai Lalai, and thank you so much.
Xin Ji Luo.